Technology doesn't replace people. It empowers them to do what once seemed impossible. The Find Me Project.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Find Me Project and podcast. My name is Mark. I'm your host and moderator, and today we're doing something different. Normally we're digging into cases, spotlighting the missing, and pooling intelligence threads to bring answers. But today I want to step back. I want to take you inside the machine we're building. The Find Me platform isn't just a website. It's a living system, a digital command post designed for one purpose: finding missing people. And like any mission critical system, it evolves. New features, new user experiences, new ways for you to step up and become part of this fight. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through what's new, how it changes the way you interact with us, and why it matters. Then we're going to open it up, Q&A, real questions, real answers. So lock in, pay attention, and get ready, because what we're building here, it isn't just tech, it's a lifeline, and you're part of it.
A mission with purpose to find the missing using the power of social networking and cutting-edge technology. We're military veterans, technologists, scuba divers, and relentless seekers. From deep forests to sunken vehicles, from silence to signal, every clue matters. If you've ever felt the call to stand for something greater, this is your moment. This is the Find Me Project.
Let us start with a prayer. Lord, give us wisdom to see what others cannot, courage to act when others will not, and strength to carry the weight for those who cannot carry it alone. Let the work we do bring light into the darkest places. Amen. If you're just tuning in to the Find Me Project, let me make this clear. Our mission is simple, but it's not easy. We exist to find the missing, and we do it by combining three things: social networking, advanced technology, and the skill sets of professionals and everyday people. That alignment, that mix, that's our ethos, to be a beacon of light for families walking through their darkest hours. Now, here's what that means in practice. We bring resources into missing person cases that never had them before. Criminal profilers, behavioral and psychological experts, intelligence analysts, targeters, military veterans, hackers, law enforcement veterans, and investigators. And we don't stop there. We deploy capabilities: sonar systems, scuba divers, specialized boats, advanced drones, even satellite platforms. Families, friends, and communities refer cases to us. When we accept a case, we don't take a dime. It's free every time. We work it with 100% focus, side-by-side families and law enforcement. Our Guardian Angel Task Force, that's our volunteer network, gathers open source intelligence. Every single piece of data gets collected, vetted, and then formatted into a professional grade report. Those reports go straight to law enforcement to strengthen their investigation. And here's the reality. Sometimes we can't bring full resolution, but we can bring clarity. We can bring answers. And for families walking in the dark, sometimes that's the light they need. Anyone can join the Guardian Angel Task Force. Anyone. If you want to be a part of something that matters, if you want to contribute to this mission, head over to the findmeproject.com, get involved. If you've been on our platform lately, you've probably noticed it looks different. Maybe a little cleaner, simpler, easy to use. Here's why. For a while, we were spending way too much time on the front end, building out the user interface, making it pretty. But that's not where the mission is won. On the back end, we've got our global search, our advanced AI system. That's the engine. That's what drives real intelligence into these cases. So we made a decision: strip it down, make the user experience smooth and simple, free up time and energy so we can focus on what matters most: working missing person cases. Now, on the platform, you'll find something new: case blogs. Every case we take on has its own case feature. Inside, you'll find updates, insights, and the related podcast episodes. It's all in one place. We're also building for the future community: features, resources, libraries, tools for families and friends who are dealing with the nightmare of a missing loved one. And we're putting a heavy focus on the first hours, that critical window when someone goes missing. You'll also see our flag submission process. Still there, still the same. Flags are intelligence, they're leads that every flag really does matter. You can submit them directly from a case blog or inside the details of an active search party. Now, here's how it works: each flag has a point value. When you submit, our system reviews it, our internal team vets it. If it's accepted, you get the points. Those points push you up the leaderboard as a guardian angel. They also stack up as loyalty points you can use in our store. If you're part of a live or virtual search party, climbing that leaderboard can earn you rewards and prizes. It's not a game, it's an incentive. It's a way of aligning our mission with your effort. Because here's the truth: everything we do matters. Every feature, every submission, every case. And this platform, it's just the beginning. We've got more features coming soon, and I can tell you, we're only getting started. All right, we are going to move into a Q&A session. We are live right now, so if you're listening in audience mode, you can submit a question. We'll read it in right here on the show. So we're going to go ahead and queue up our first question as it comes in. See if we get anything. Come on, everyone. I know you're out there. All right, here's our first one. This one comes from John. Why do you think so many missing person cases remain unsolved? John, that's a heavy question. And the reality, it's tough. Across America, most police departments are understaffed. They barely have enough officers to patrol the streets, let alone dedicate full-time resources to missing persons. A mid to large department might see 15 new cases in a single day. That adds up fast. Cases stack on cases, and resources, they don't scale. Now, let me be clear. This is not a knock on law enforcement. I respect the hell out of the men and women serving in uniform. But the reality is this: detectives often start with a short academy, then years as a patrol officer. Eventually, they move into investigations. That doesn't make them specialists. It doesn't mean they've had years of training in profiling, behavioral analysis, or intelligence, targeting. And sometimes that lack of depth means things get missed. Now, compare that with the military. Operators spend years perfecting their craft. Intelligence analysts go through entire pipelines of training before they touch a real case. And that kind of structured expertise, it doesn't exist in most public sector investigations. And on top of that, they lack capabilities. They don't have advanced sonar boats. They don't have advanced drones. They don't have cutting edge systems that could turn a single lead into a breakthrough. And here's another truth: the technology gap. We are living through one of the biggest technology revolutions of our generation. But most agencies don't have the budget, the knowledge, or the talent to keep up. Senior engineers, architects, developers, the kind who make tech actually work, they earn $200,000, $300,000 a year. Easy. That's way outside the reach of most police departments. So, what happens? The gap stays, cases stay unsolved, families stay without answers. And that's where the Find Me project comes in. We flip the script. We bring in resources the public sector just doesn't have: retired operators, profilers, analysts, technologists, people who've spent decades sharpening their craft, people who still want their skills to matter. We combine that with advanced technology systems and community driven intelligence. That's how we close the gap. That's how we bring clarity and hopefully resolution to families who have been waiting far too long. All right, so we're going to go ahead and field our second question. Let's see, John, that was a good one. Let's see here. I got a couple that have come in. I want to pick and choose maybe a good one selfishly. There we go, right here. This one is from Leah. How did the Find Me project get started? The origin story, right? I think this is a good one. Thank you, Leah, for asking. Yeah, several years ago, I was working on a research project in the defense and security sector where the goal or objective was essentially to take data and be able to search, aggregate, report, visualize on parameters that matter to defense and security. And that was basically the very early foundation of global search, which is still used today. That's our advanced AI system that runs the Find Me project. At that time, we had received some communication and then had an outreach from a mother who was missing her young adult daughter. Her daughter had been missing for roughly around 4 years, and she was fearing the worst. Her daughter was from California, and she had some substance abuse issues for several years. However, the mother felt very confident that her daughter had become clean and that she was no longer dependent on drugs. But they had absolutely nothing. The only piece of information they had was about a year after her alleged disappearance. A family friend was in the Texas area and felt as though they had seen this missing person, her daughter, but couldn't be 100%. They could never confirm it, so it just added to the mystery. So we accepted, and one of the very first things that we did was take all of the preliminary information, so all of the pedigree information for her daughter, and run it through global search. And what it was doing was basically searching for any information relating to this missing person, right? Again, we had name, date of birth. We had, I believe, a cell phone number, email. We also had a few different social media accounts that we could reference. So, we looked at things such as handles, usernames, any information that we could extract. And very quickly, we actually found indexed information that was living within the deep web, right? So you have to understand that global search will interact with the world of IoT, Internet of Things. So basically the surface web, deep web, and dark web. Most of us only interact with 5% of the internet, and that is the surface web. There's a lot of information and data that exists out there if you know how to find it. So here we find this information on the deep web is an indexed page, very much like Craigslist or Backpages. And it's actually for an area in Texas, ironically, where this family friend had seen or allegedly seen her daughter or this missing woman. And the communication that was taking place had all the telltale signs of human and sex trafficking, right? So it appeared that this young woman was looking for a job, and the people that she was talking to had convinced her to possibly come to Texas to work for them and could offer her a great life, right? That's how they were advertising it. Now, once we found that information, we were also able to match it up against some of the pedigree and contact information that we had in our search parameter. So we had a guarantee match. However, after we found that information in Texas, everything went cold. After a few days, we were able to actually locate some additional data links that brought us up to the northeast area of the United States. It was actually Pennsylvania. And that led us to another data link where we were able to find a reference where this missing woman had been talking to this other woman, and it appeared that maybe they became roommates. So long story short, we were able to get in contact with this potential roommate. We did, in fact, verify that she knew the missing person that we were looking for, and she had last seen her about 4 months ago. She informed us that she had come to the area unexpectedly, fell into the wrong crowd, and possibly maybe was using drugs again, and that she had not heard from her in a few months. So that really allowed our system to focus in on this area in Pennsylvania. And we were eventually able to make contact with this missing woman. And, one of the first things that we have to do is make sure that it's actually safe, right? It's if you're dealing with an adult, or if the missing person is an adult, and if they choose on their own accord to go missing, or if they just disappear, maybe they don't want to be bothered, maybe, they're trying to disappear for safety reasons, they can absolutely do that. So one of the first things that we have to do is make sure that it is safe. So we told her the entire situation, and she said that it was okay for us to put her in contact with her family. Long story short here is that, like I mentioned, this missing woman had been on and off with drugs, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, but primarily heroin. And she had been clean for several months, but she was struggling because of her past to find a job, and she wanted to turn her life around. However, she knew if she was to make a sudden decision, her family, her friends, everyone who knew her would judge her. So she got online and made a split-second decision. Unknowingly to her, the people she was talking to that were offering her a job and a new life were taking advantage of her, right? This happens all the time. We see it within the world of human and sex trafficking. So she spontaneously goes to Texas and very quickly finds out that the people that she's going to be working for, although it was a legit job, were bad. Essentially, what they were doing was they got her using heroin again, and eventually she could no longer pay to feed the fix or the addiction. So now they say, hey, if you want this, if you want heroin or if you want drugs, we're going to give it to you, but you now have to work for us. We own you. She was smart enough to realize this early on, and she grabbed all of her stuff and in a split-second decision, hitched a ride, literally hitchhiked, to Pennsylvania. That was not her intended location, right? She had no idea where she was going, but she knew she had to get out of Texas. So she makes her way to Pennsylvania. And when she gets there, She has no house. She's basically homeless. She ends up meeting a woman, right? So that's that link that we found with the roommate. And she lived with this woman for a period of time. However, her past addiction to heroin and falling in with the wrong crowd in Texas, where they had her start using again, all of that started to creep back up, and she could not kick the feeling that she had where she had to use. So she starts using in Pennsylvania, and that just leads her down a very dark hole. She ends up uh, homeless again. She falls in with the wrong crowd. She's using drugs. This is a very common scenario that happens. Basically, the missing woman had said that early on she knew that her family may have been looking for her. She didn't realize that there was an active missing person investigation and case and a police report, and her family was doing everything. However, very quickly, it got to a point where she felt that her family would think that she was a low life and would be ashamed of her. So she cut all ties. And as she continued to get deeper and deeper into that world, um, especially with, constantly being high, it just never came across her mind anymore. Going down this road all too often will lead to the missing person becoming killed, whether it's an overdose or the evil people that she's engaging with. So after, we found her and we reunited her with her mother and the family, we realized that there's a lot of potential. And one of the things I asked was for some data on this issue. And when I found out how many people go missing every single year in America, and how many of those people, that percentage, go into a cold case status. With my background, the military, private sector, government, law enforcement, special weapons and tactics, and then becoming an engineer and being able to do some really cool things, especially from, an engineering and developer perspective, I knew that we had to do this. And it was really about that same time that I had found faith. I became a Christian, and just sort of everything came together. And I knew that this was one of my mission and purpose in life, was to really focus on this. So that's, the origin story from a high level. It's a very powerful one, and it's why our ethos to this day is to serve as a beacon of light for those traversing their darkest hours. All right, we're going to take one more question. So this one is going to be a new one. So if we could get somebody to go ahead and put that in the chat. As we wait, I'm going to go ahead and get a drink here. Yeah, I just want to call this out because I'm sure many of you just saw me drinking this. This is 100% a non-sponsored advertisement, but Jocko Mulk, a protein shake, 30 grams of protein. This stuff is legit. I'm drinking the vanilla flavor, and it is so good. If you haven't tried it, you really got to get in on this. All right, let's get back to focusing here. Let's see what we got. All right, here's our next question. This one comes from Mike. What should a person do in the first 24 hours if a loved one goes missing? This is one of the most important questions you can ever ask, because those first 24 hours, they matter. They set the stage for everything that follows. First thing, report it immediately. Don't wait. That myth about having to wait 24 hours, it's exactly that, a myth. If you know someone is missing, call the police right away. Call 911. If it's urgent, call the local station. If it's not, the clock starts the second you know they're gone. Next, gather the details: who they are, what they look like, what they were wearing, where they were last seen, what car they might have been driving, pull together recent photos, gather their phone number, their social media handles, anything that could help law enforcement start the trail. The more you have, the faster they can act. Third, notify everyone who matters. Police, obviously, but also NCMEC if it's a child, hospitals, shelters, friends, coworkers, neighbors, anyone who might have seen them. You'd be surprised how often one overlooked call leads to a breakthrough. And while you're doing that, preserve evidence. Don't clean their room. Don't wash their clothes. Don't touch their phone or computer. That toothbrush, that hairbrush, those personal items, they can carry DNA, scent, or clues. Lock down their home, their vehicle, their devices. Leave it for investigators. Then, get out the word. Flyers, social media, ask law enforcement about Amber Alerts, Silver Alerts, or other advisories your state can issue. Share information fast, but keep it accurate. Stick to the facts. Rumors kill cases. And finally, lean on your community. Organize safely, work with law enforcement. Friends and volunteers can spread flyers, knock on doors, or join searches. But it has to be coordinated. Chaos doesn't help, structure does. And I'll add this: take care of yourself and your family. You can't run a marathon on empty. Eat, hydrate, rest. Use support organizations. You don't have to carry this weight alone. I want to go back to the one I just said. Use support organizations. There's many different organizations that are out there, just like the Find Me Project. If you find yourself in this situation, I promise you, you are going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to know what to do. You're going to feel like 1,000 people are yelling at you, talking to you, trying to tell you what to do, and you are just going to shut down. There's a reason why us as professionals or people who have spent some time navigating this type of situation, staring evil in the face if evil is a cause for a missing person to disappear. There's a saying that whenever I do any type of crisis management, resiliency, or disaster recovery, large scale event, in times of disaster or crisis, you will default to your most basic level of training. You must become a master of the basics. We focus on this every single day. You do not. So lean on those support organizations. Reach out, see if they have any availability to help coordinate a structured search party. So that way they can work and sort of act as that middle person with law enforcement. And many of those organizations, just like the Find Me Project, have very advanced systems. Sonar and dive boats, drones, satellite options, LiDAR. It all comes into play, especially when and if that support organization is going to try to rely on predictive modeling and predictive analytics to where they can reference a profile assessment or a pattern of life and make very, very accurate predictions on, in this situation, a person would have most likely done this. Or if a person went into this wooded area or body of water, or if they were traveling from point A to point B, their most likely route would have been this. That's possible. I promise it is. And in many cases, you can get almost to a 98% as far as accuracy goes. And especially with technology, like I said earlier, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all the other frameworks that are out there, we've really come a long way. So, we need to take advantage of them to the fullest extent. Again, if you have not done so already, please take a look at the findmeproject.com. If you're not on our Guardian Angel Task Force or our team of volunteers who help gather open source intelligence, join our online community, become a Guardian Angel. I definitely look forward to, seeing you join our team and hopefully out there on one of our live search parties that we have planned in the very near future. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Take care. I'll see you on the next episode.